The air was thick with tension as the world around him seemed to tremble. Zane stood alone, staring at the horizon where strange lights flickered. The sky was no longer just blue, it shimmered with an eerie glow, unlike anything he had ever seen. The ground beneath his feet hummed, vibrating with an unnatural energy. Zane couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Something huge. Something he wasn't prepared for. Suddenly, there was a loud, deafening roar that shook the earth. Zane's heart raced as the roar grew louder. He turned, and there it was, a massive ship, shaped like a winged creature, descending from the sky, cutting through the clouds like a predator on the hunt. It landed with a thunderous crash, sending waves of dust and debris flying. As Zane stood frozen in shock, a soft voice broke through the chaos. "You're not alone anymore." He spun around, searching for the source of the voice, but saw nothing. The air was thick with dust and smoke, and the world seemed to blur around him. And then she appeared. A figure stepped from the shadows. A girl, but not a human girl. She had glowing blue skin, her wings shimmering like the brightest butterfly. Her eyes glowed with a soft, mysterious light, and her movements were graceful, almost ethereal. The alien girl was beautiful, her form surrounded by an aura of shimmering light, yet there was a sadness in her eyes, a look that spoke of a great burden. Without a word, she walked toward him, her wings fluttering softly behind her. Zane couldn't speak, his mind racing. Who are you?" The girl's wings extended, wrapping around Zane like a protective shield. "I am Alia, from the planet Elora," she said softly. "I need your warmth. Only you can save me." Zane's heart pounded in his chest. "Save you? What's happening? What do you mean?" Her voice trembled slightly. "My world is dying. The war has begun. I was sent to find you. Your warmth, is the only thing that can help me survive." Before Zane could ask anything more, the ground shook again, and the sound of marching footsteps reached their ears. The war was here. The battle for survival was about to begin, and Zane had no idea what role he was about to play in it. But one thing was certain, his life would never be the same again. Zane stood there, his heart racing as the alien girl, Alia, held him close. The warmth of her wings wrapped around him felt comforting, yet strange. He couldn't understand it. He had never felt so connected to someone so quickly. She was an alien from a distant planet, and yet, in that moment, their fates seemed tied together. "Why me?" Zane asked, his voice shaky. "Why did you come to me? What do I have to do with your war?" Alia's wings fluttered slightly as she pulled back just enough to meet his gaze. Her eyes, glowing with a soft blue light, were filled with something that Zane couldn't quite place: fear, urgency, but also hope. "You don't understand. The war is not just between us. It's bigger than that. It's a battle for survival. For the entire galaxy." Zane's mind spun. He had always believed in the power of science and technology, but this was something beyond his understanding. A war, a galaxy-wide struggle, and now he was a part of it. How could this be real? Suddenly, the ground trembled again. This time, it wasn't just the distant sound of war machines, it was closer. The air grew thick, and Zane could feel the pressure building, as though something massive was moving beneath the surface. "What is that?" Zane asked, his voice barely a whisper. Alia's eyes widened in fear. "The invaders. They found us. They are the Kriza, a race that destroys everything in their path. They've come to Elora, and they will destroy everything." Alia's wings shimmered, their glow intensifying as she looked toward the sky. "I cannot stop them alone. I need you, Zane. You must come with me to Elora. Only together can we stop the Kriza from spreading their destruction." Zane's mind raced. He had no idea how he could help, but the urgency in Alia's voice was clear. He couldn't just stand there and do nothing. A sense of responsibility surged within him, and before he could think twice, he nodded. "All right," he said, his voice steady. "I'll help, but how do we get to your planet?" Alia's wings wrapped around him again, and for a brief moment, Zane felt the warmth of her energy, the connection that seemed to be growing stronger between them. "We don't need a ship. We travel through the portal of light. It will take us directly to Elora, but it's dangerous. The Kriza will be hunting us." Zane felt a chill run down his spine. He had no idea what he was getting into, but there was no turning back now. The world around them had already begun to change, and so had his life. Alia's warmth was his only guide, and he would follow her into the unknown. Together, they began walking toward the shimmering light in the distance, the portal of light, waiting to take them to a world on the brink of destruction. The shimmering light ahead pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing Zane in as if it were alive. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Alia's wings fluttered nervously, the soft glow of her skin reflecting the intensity of the light surrounding them. Zane could feel the energy in the air growing stronger, almost alive, vibrating with an electric charge that made his skin tingle. "This is it," Alia said quietly, her voice steady but filled with unease. "The portal of light, it will take us to Elora ... but we must be careful. Once we enter, we won't have much control over where we go. The Kriza could follow us if they sense our presence." Zane swallowed hard, trying to steady his nerves. The idea of traveling through a portal to an alien world was overwhelming, but there was no turning back now. The war was coming, and Alia needed him. He wasn't going to let her down. "Let's do it," Zane said, determination growing in his chest. "I'm ready." Alia nodded and stepped forward, her wings unfurling to their full size. The bright light of the portal intensified as they moved closer, almost as if it recognized them, as if it was waiting for them. Zane followed her, feeling the warmth of her presence beside him. The air around them grew colder as they approached, a stark contrast to the warmth that radiated from Alia. Zane's breath caught in his throat as they crossed the threshold of the portal. For a split second, everything went dark. Then a surge of energy surrounded him, pulling him forward at an impossible speed. He felt weightless, like he was falling through an endless tunnel. But there was no fear. Alia's presence kept him grounded, her wings brushing against him in a protective gesture. And then, as quickly as it began, the sensation stopped. Zane stumbled forward, his feet landing on solid ground. He looked up in awe. The world before him was nothing like Earth. The sky was a deep violet, and 2 moons hung low, casting an eerie glow over a landscape that seemed both familiar and alien. Huge trees with bioluminescent leaves stretched toward the sky, their branches weaving together like a natural network of light. The air smelled sweet, with hints of jasmine and something he couldn't quite place. He could hear the distant hum of energy in the air, as though the planet itself was alive, breathing. Alia stepped forward, her wings folding gently behind her. "Welcome to Elora." Zane's eyes scanned the landscape, taking in the alien beauty. This wasn't like anything he had imagined. There was no sign of destruction here, at least not yet. The peaceful, vibrant world before him seemed so at odds with the war that was supposedly raging. It was as if this place, this planet, was on the brink of something catastrophic. He turned to Alia, his voice low. "It's single quotes S. Beautiful. But what now? What do we do here?" Alia's face grew serious, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Now we find the crystal of life. It's the key to stopping the Kriza. But it's hidden in the Temple of Eternity, deep in the heart of Elora. We don't have much time." Before Zane could respond, a loud rumble echoed through the air, and the ground beneath them shook. Dust and debris fell from the trees as the rumble grew louder. Alia's eyes widened in alarm. "They're here. The Kriza have already arrived." Zane looked around frantically, trying to make sense of what was happening. The once peaceful landscape was now filled with a sense of danger. The Kriza had arrived, and they weren't going to stop until Elora was destroyed. Alia's wings flared open, and she turned to Zane, her face resolute. "We must move quickly. The Kriza will come for the crystal of life. If they find it before us, it will be the end of everything." Zane nodded, adrenaline surging through him. The fight for Elora had begun, and there was no going back. Together, they ran toward the Temple of Eternity, the looming threat of the Kriza hanging over them. The battle for survival was just beginning. The air was thick with tension as Zane and Alia made their way through the dense forest. The distant sound of marching echoed through the trees, growing louder with each passing moment. The Kriza were too close. Their cold, calculated march was like a death knell for the peaceful world of Elora. Alia's wings fluttered anxiously, the glowing blue edges flickering in the shadowed light. She kept her eyes ahead, not allowing herself to look back, even as the earth beneath them shook with the advancing Kriza forces. Zane felt a sense of urgency building inside him. Time was running out. "How much farther?" Zane asked, his voice tight. "We're close," Alia replied, her voice steady, but filled with an underlying fear. "The Temple of Eternity is just beyond these trees. It's hidden, but the Kriza are masters at finding things they want." Zane couldn't help but feel the weight of her words. He had no idea what the crystal of life was, but it was there. Only hope. If the Kriza got their hands on it, it could mean the end for Elora and possibly the galaxy. The dense forest opened up to reveal a massive stone structure, covered in glowing vines and ancient markings. The Temple of Eternity was more beautiful and imposing than anything Zane had ever seen. Its towering pillars seemed to stretch into the sky, and the structure itself seemed to pulse with an energy that matched the planet's own heartbeat. "This is it?" Alia said, her voice filled with awe. She looked up at the temple with reverence, her wings fluttering slightly as though they too were drawn to the sacred place. "The crystal is inside. We must be quick." Zane nodded, but just as they began to approach, a loud crash echoed from behind them. The ground trembled once more, and Zane whipped around to see a group of Kriza soldiers emerging from the trees, their black armor gleaming in the dim light. They moved with purpose, their weapons drawn, their eyes cold and merciless. "Get to the temple," Alia shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "I'll hold them off." Zane's heart raced. He didn't want to leave her, but there was no time for hesitation. With one last glance at her, he ran toward the entrance of the temple. The massive stone doors creaked open as if they had been waiting for him. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of incense and ancient magic. The walls of the temple were lined with glowing symbols, their meaning lost to time but still exuding a sense of power. Zane's eyes darted around the room, searching for anything that might lead him to the crystal of life. Alia's voice echoed in his mind. "It's hidden in the heart of the temple. The crystal will guide you when you find it. Trust your instincts." Zane didn't have time to think. He pushed forward, his footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. He reached the center of the temple and stopped, his breath catching in his throat. There, on a pedestal made of gleaming crystal, was the crystal of life glowing with an otherworldly light. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, pulsing with energy that seemed to resonate deep within his chest. Before he could reach for it, the ground shook once more, and a cold voice filled the chamber. "You cannot take it." Zane spun around, his heart leaping into his throat. Standing in the doorway was a Kriza commander, tall and imposing, his dark armor a stark contrast to the glowing beauty of the temple. His eyes glowed with malice as he slowly advanced toward Zane. "I will take the crystal," the commander said, his voice cold. "And with it, I will destroy your world." Zane's heart pounded in his chest as he faced the Kriza. He could feel the weight of the crystal in the air, its power humming in his bones. This was it, the moment of truth. He had to protect the crystal of life, or everything would be lost. The Kriza commander raised his weapon, and Zane braced himself, knowing that the fight for Elora, and perhaps the galaxy, was about to begin. Zane's heart raced as the Kriza commander's weapon glinted menacingly in the dim light of the temple. The air was thick with the anticipation of the impending battle, and the energy from the crystal of life seemed to pulse stronger, as if it were aware of the danger. Zane couldn't let the Kriza commander take it. Not now, not when so much was at stake. You think you can stop me? The Kriza commander sneered, his voice like ice. He took another step forward, his weapon crackling with dark energy. I am the Kriza's finest. The crystal will be ours, and nothing will stand in our way. Zane's breath quickened as he glanced at the pedestal, the crystal of life glowing even brighter. He could feel its power calling to him, urging him to act. The realization hit him hard. He couldn't do this alone. Alia had given him the warmth of her wings, the connection they shared, but now it was his turn to stand strong, to protect this world, this galaxy. The Kriza commander raised his weapon high, and Zane instinctively stepped forward, his hand reaching toward the crystal. As if in response, the crystal's light flared up, filling the room with a brilliant, blinding glow. Zane was momentarily blinded, and the air crackled with energy as the ground beneath him shook. The Kriza commander staggered back, his face twisted in disbelief. What is this? He roared, struggling to shield his eyes from the intense light. Zane didn't know what was happening, but the crystal's energy surged within him, flooding his body with warmth and power. He could feel Alia's presence in the back of his mind, urging him to trust the crystal, to use its power to fight back. Without thinking, Zane stretched his hand out, and the crystal's light shot forward in a beam of pure energy. The Kriza commander raised his weapon in a desperate attempt to block it, but the energy was too much. It slammed into him with the force of 1,000 storms, sending him flying backward with a deafening crash. The walls of the temple trembled as the Kriza commander slammed into the stone floor, his weapon clattering away from him. For a moment, the room was silent, except for the distant sound of Alia's voice, faint but clear in his mind. You did it. The crystal has chosen you. Zane stood, breathing heavily, still unsure of what exactly had happened. The crystal of life glowed softly once more, its light calming, as if acknowledging his victory. But he knew it wasn't over, not yet. The Kriza commander groaned and struggled to his feet. His armor cracked from the impact, his glowing eyes narrowed as he glared at Zane, his hatred palpable. This isn't finished. You may have defeated me, but you haven't won the war. Zane's heart sank. The Kriza were relentless. No matter what he did, they wouldn't stop. He had the crystal of life, but it wasn't enough to stop the entire Kriza army. The battle was far from over. Just as Zane prepared for the commander's next attack, a soft voice echoed through the temple. Alia! Zane turned quickly, relief flooding through him as Alia appeared at the entrance of the chamber. Her wings shimmered with radiant light, and she moved with the grace of someone who had just fought her own battles. She was bruised, but unharmed. We have to leave, Alia said urgently, her eyes scanning the room. The Kriza will bring reinforcements. We can't stay here. Zane looked at the fallen commander, then at the crystal of life still glowing on the pedestal. He didn't want to leave. It was their only hope, but Alia was right. The Kriza would be coming in full force, and they needed to escape. He couldn't fight them all, not yet. Zane nodded, taking one last look at the crystal. Let's go. Together. They turned and rushed out of the temple, their footsteps echoing in the silent, sacred space. The world outside had changed. The Kriza were here, and their war had just begun. But Zane knew one thing. They weren't going to give up without a fight. The crystal of life pulsed gently in his hands as they ran, a symbol of hope, of survival. And somehow, Zane knew that the final battle wasn't in the temple, it was just beginning. Zane and Alia raced through the dense forest, the light from the crystal of life still glowing softly in Zane's hands. The quiet, peaceful world of Elora was now anything but. The distant sounds of the Kriza's war machines filled the air, their engines rumbling like thunder. Zane could feel the weight of the situation pressing on him. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about protecting everything. The entire galaxy's fate rested in their hands. "We can't outrun them forever," Alia said, her voice strained as she flapped her wings harder, keeping pace with Zane. "We need to find a way to stop them, or Elora will fall." Zane didn't respond at first. His mind raced with the possibilities. The crystal of life had saved him before. It had given him the power to defeat the Kriza commander. But it wasn't enough to win the war. Not yet. He needed more. They needed a plan. Ahead of them, through the trees, Zane saw the towering temple of eternity in the distance, its ancient walls standing firm. But now, it was a symbol of everything they had fought for. If they couldn't stop the Kriza, Elora and every other world in their path would be destroyed. Zane's grip tightened around the crystal. He had to make this work. He had to trust it. "We have to make our stand here," Zane said, his voice filled with resolve. He turned to Alia. "The temple is the key. We can't let them destroy it." Alia's eyes met his, and for the first time, Zane saw something that he hadn't noticed before: true fear. But there was also something else. A flicker of hope. She had always been the one leading, the one with the answers. But now they were in this together. She nodded. "You're right," she said, her voice calm despite the urgency. "The temple holds the last of Elora's ancient energy. We can use it to fight back, but we must be quick." Zane and Alia moved towards the temple at a sprint, the Kriza closing in on them. Zane's heart pounded as he glanced over his shoulder. Seeing the dark figures of the Kriza soldiers emerging from the trees, their eyes glowing with malice. They were getting closer. He could feel it, the end was near, unless they did something now. When they reached the temple, Alia led him to a hidden doorway at the base, barely visible against the stone. As they entered, the air inside was charged with energy. The walls were lined with glowing symbols, the same symbols that had once guided their ancestors. Zane's mind spun as he followed Alia deeper into the temple, the light from the crystal of life illuminating their path. "Here," Alia said, stopping in front of an altar. It was ancient, worn by time, but the energy pulsing from it was unmistakable. "Place the crystal here." Zane hesitated for a moment. The crystal of life was their last hope. If it was placed here, it could either amplify the planet's energy to stop the Kriza, or it could destroy everything. But Alia's gaze was steady, filled with trust. "You have to do it, Zane. Trust it. Trust yourself." With a deep breath, Zane placed the crystal on the altar. The moment his fingers left it, the room seemed to come alive. The air crackled with energy, and the symbols on the walls began to glow brighter. The crystal of life pulsed with a fierce bright light that filled the entire temple, radiating outward in waves of power. Outside, the Kriza commander and his forces were approaching. The sound of their war machines grew louder, but Zane didn't take his eyes off the altar. He could feel the crystal's energy surging through him, and he knew deep down that it was working. This was their chance. The light from the temple exploded outward, flooding the sky with brilliant colors. It was as if Cholura itself had come to life, the planet's energy responding to the call of the crystal. The Kriza were upon them, but as they neared the temple, the light intensified, creating a barrier that pushed them back. The Kriza commander screamed in fury as his forces were forced to halt, the intense energy from the temple preventing them from advancing. It was as if Elora itself was rejecting them. "No, this can't be." The commander shouted, but it was too late. The light from the temple reached its peak, and a final surge of power flooded the Kriza forces, disarming them, pushing them back, until they were nothing but shadows retreating into the distance. Zane collapsed to his knees, the energy from the crystal of life overwhelming him. Alia rushed to his side, her wings gently surrounding him. "We did it," she whispered, her voice filled with relief. "Elora is safe." Zane looked up at her, his heart still racing. "We're not just protecting Elora. We've stopped the Kriza from destroying everything." Alia smiled, her wings glowing softly. "Yes, we have. But this is only the beginning, Zane. There will be more battles to fight, more challenges to face. But we're ready, together." As the light from the crystal of life faded, the skies above Elora began to clear, and the world seemed to breathe. Again, the threat of the Kriza had been vanquished, at least for now. But Zane knew this was just one victory in a war that was far from over, and as he stood beside Alia, he realized that no matter what came next, he would always fight to protect the galaxy and the beautiful, brave alien girl who had trusted him with her world.